NCAA Pick'em Boys 2024. I'm your host, Gavin Lynch. We are week 9. We're in the thick of it. I have a lot of terrible picks in the group, but however, I had a good gambling week, so I'm content and I'm happy about it. Besides the point, picks are due Saturday, October 26th at 11 a.m. First game is Thursday, October 24th at 6 p.m. Rumor has it there's a lot of people just doing a lot of stuff this weekend, so get your picks in early. That way you don't have to worry about it when the time comes. All right, we're in week 9. Let's go over week 8, a little bit of recap. Not many people went positive this week, just about 8. 2 people going 5-0, Ian and Taylor. Congratulations to y'all. Taylor, it's nice to see you at the top of the totem pole every once in a while. And a few stragglers of 3-2s and 4-1s. But if we go to the latter half, the heftier half, we got a lot of people that went negative, including myself going very negative, 0-5. I usually have one of those once a season, so that's okay. It's fine. We're going to move forward. And overall,
only a loser would say that would be okay.
Listen, I didn't introduce you yet. Keep your mouth shut. Catching strays from afar. What's this about? Insanity. And overall standings, which Jerry's not in, we have Brandon and Zach going head to head, 26-14. And Matthew, Tommy, and Steven, 25-15 and 24-16. It's going to get tight. These races only get tighter. So let's hope that we have a few people fall off. And before I introduce the boys, a couple of games that a lot of people went on and didn't quite follow through. Big one was Oklahoma State at ranked 13 BYU, another win that BYU was lucky in. To cover 9.5, but they only got 3 points ahead of them, so that was not quite enough, and that's the worst way to lose. And we also have Auburn at ranked 19 Missouri, 21-17. Missouri won by 4 points. However, the spread was 4.5, and that was one of my picks, so that sucks. And BYU was one of my picks too that I also missed. That sucks. And then the last one, another pick that I had. Ranked 5 Georgia at ranked 1 Texas, 30-15. Georgia ending up winning this game, even though Texas was projected to win. Unfortunate, but that is how that rolls. And now, because I know everybody's itching with opinions, we're going to start with the man that knows it all. The man that's a whittle under the weather. We have Jerry Stovall, and on the other side, you know him as just Peter, because that's all he's got. Boys, what's up?
I would just like to start off with saying you both can suck my nuts. I do think at one point, even if it was mainly sarcastic, I did say Georgia by 2 scores. And look at Georgia, 2 scores.
I mean, it was a great surprise because I'm not a big Texas fan. So to see them lose in amazing fashion was a nice little treat. Now, the question's going to be, because I'm sure a lot of people saw the 24/7 Sports post that they had saying that Ewers was out for the remainder of the season or sitting out for the remainder of the season. It'd be interesting to see if there's any truth behind it.
I thought Ewers posted that was fake news.
I mean, I guess we'll see on Saturday if it's fake or not.
That's a fair point. And with Mortal Locks last week, Jerry, congratulations to you. I bet you don't even remember what you picked.
Nope, do not.
Michigan,
no, it was the Michigans.
barely.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I did not get mine, unfortunately. And Peter, you are back to even, 4-4.
So that puts me as the lone number 1 right now, right?
Yep, 6-2, and I'm 5-3. So I'm trailing behind. Everybody's trailing behind by 1 to each other. So that's exuberating. All right, we got a lot of big games this week, a lot of big ones, and we're going to talk about a select few of them. And we're going to start off with the morning slate, I believe, is ranked number 12 Notre Dame at ranked 24 Navy. Okay. Notre Dame projected to win away 12 and a half. And I really want to see Navy pull through on this, even like get a win. That seems like a big stretch. Navy's not half bad. Notre Dame, after the first week, everybody was like, maybe Notre Dame's not quite back. No, second week, excuse me. But Notre Dame they put their money where their mouth is this season thus far, covering 5-1, 5-2, excuse me. Navy covering 5-1 as well. So both of these teams are great at covering. They're great at the overs. And personally, in this situation, because I'm a gambling man, your boys got to take Notre Dame 12 and a half. Thoughts?
I have a lot of them.
Oh, let's hear them. Let's hear some of those deep thoughts.
So Navy's on a tear, as like I'm sure everyone else has been noticing. They're undefeated. They're playing great ball. What's interesting is if you compare Notre Dame's offense against Navy's defense, they have the advantage in the rushing offense, but the passing offense is all in Navy's favor. And then if you compare Navy's offense versus Notre Dame's defense, it's essentially the same. The main difference is the yards after completion, the yards per attempt, and the QB rating is in Navy's interest. It's going to be tough because, if a team is one dimensional, especially in the running game, it's typically not the best result. Or really, a team that's one dimensional at all is not a great result. But to see a spread that wide, especially when it's at Navy and Navy is playing as well as they are, I don't like Notre Dame in this one. I mean, they may win, but I hope they don't win because I would love to see an undefeated Navy Army play it off. But that large of a spread, I like Navy for this one.
But listen, Navy hasn't played anybody that I would deem in the category of Notre Dame. Like, they haven't had their serious competition yet, just like everybody said about Texas, where it's like y'all guys are kind of sailing through these teams, but Notre Dame's been through the ringer already enough to where they've kind of figured out their groove, where possibly
With who, though?
I mean, the beginning of the season, like, it's one of those, they barely beat A&M. That was
a weak A&M team that still was trying to find their identity.
Yeah, but it was competitive.
I mean, yeah, but that's what you get with a week one.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, they played a weak Stanford. They were tested against a Louisville team, which you could make an argument that they are better than Notre Dame. But then they also played NIU, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, and Georgia Tech. Those aren't really big name, like tested.
But I mean, if you're gonna compare them to Navy,
I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, I guess that's why the spread is as wide as it is because they believe that Notre Dame does have a few more big games underneath their belt. But it's the way that, and it's kind of fallen in the same trap as Texas Georgia last week. They're not just playing down to the level of their opponents. They're putting up points, and they're putting up a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
The thing that I see, like, I think Notre Dame's going to take it. So I'd agree with you, Gavin. Mainly for this reason is Navy and honestly all the military schools, they're just known for their run games. And like Navy is passing significantly better than previous years, but they still have to have a consistent enough run game against Notre Dame to set that up. And I just don't see that happening for Navy. Like, even though it is, I think it's not in South Bend, it's at Navy. I don't know. I do think since Navy hasn't played a team even close to the caliber of Notre Dame, even though you can argue pretty, like Jerry was saying, pretty similarly for Notre Dame, I do think they've just been playing a lot more meaningful football in harder environments than what Navy's even come remotely close to. It's also, too, is Notre Dame has to win out to be the 12th seed. Like, I don't, when I look at the college rankings, I don't see Notre Dame getting maybe 11 if they win out completely, maybe 11. I don't see them getting any higher than that, but any loss and Notre Dame's has absolutely no chance.
Exactly what I was going to say too, Peter. I'm glad you chimed in. I had the same exact thoughts. I'm glad you just put them out in the world. Well, there you go. Jerry, I wish you luck with that pick, but your boys are going to stick with ND. It's first, only time I'll probably say Notre Dame for the
Hey,
record.
bring that shirt back. Get that shirt out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Knew it was going to happen.
Still sitting right over there.
You haven't returned it yet? You're probably too late
I
to
got my
return
money
it now.
back.
Oh, they just told you to keep it. Gotcha.
Yes, this is annoying. I'll spend the gas money to go return it, you know?
They basically said this is essentially worthless. You just keep it.
Yeah, they knew it was a punishment, and they're like, yeah, you ride on that. You sit on it. Anyways, another ranked game. Let's see here. There you go. We got a ranked 20 Illinois at ranked 1, number 1 Oregon. Oregon at home projected to win by 21.5, which, boy, that is a steep, steep number. Peter.
Yeah. If there's one thing I could say is put the house on Illinois. Even though I don't think Illinois will win, I do expect this to be a pretty close game, kind of similar to the Illinois Penn State game where Illinois is going to be behind. Probably will take a lead at some point in the game. But I expect this game to be within 7 to 10 points. I don't see Oregon. Like when I look at the college rankings, do I think Oregon is the number 1 team? I don't think they've proven that, but I don't see another team that I'd put in their place right now. So similar to Texas, where it's just, yep, it's like on paper, yeah, put Oregon there. But Illinois, the one thing they have done all season is play really close in every game. Even if they've lost, it's been close. Even the Penn State, like they technically lost by 14. That was a much closer game than what that shows. And if anything, that what Illinois has right now is momentum. Like barely beat Purdue, but then they come in, beat Michigan, and Oregon barely snuck out that game against Ohio State. So I don't know. I expect Illinois to at least keep it well within 21.5 points. I think that's just an obnoxious spread. Let's hear your thoughts, gents.
Jerry.
It's an intriguing matchup for sure because it looks like this is the very first game that Oregon will play against Illinois. So that's intriguing in itself. But I mean, on paper, this should be all Oregon. I mean, Oregon leads in the offense versus defense, even defense versus offense. There really isn't anything to say that Oregon shouldn't win this and potentially win big. But I agree with Peter. The fact that, like, Oregon, I think their largest point differential was 49-14 against Oregon State back in September. Everything else has been 21 points or less. So it's not like Oregon is just blowing everyone out of the water. And these are like, oh, I'm sorry, biggest one, it looks like Purdue last week at 35-0. But I mean, Purdue was Purdue. But like UCLA 34-13, Michigan State 31-10. And Peter's right. Illinois has kept it close. 21.5 is just way too big of a gap to overcome, even if it is at home. And the kickoff is at 3:30 Eastern time, which, what would that put it over there? 11 Pacific?
Noon.
Noon? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're 3 hours behind.
So it's not like it should be a big issue. I mean, you can only think that there may be a bit of a jet lag for Illinois to travel over there. But yeah, I like Illinois to at least cover. They may not win, but they should cover 21.5.
Right. I agree. I don't think I also don't think that Illinois is going to win this game at all. I do not think they have a chance. But 21, way too big of a number. I would put this closer to like 14 and a half, 2 touchdowns and a little change. I also, and in respects of Illinois' record right now, Penn State's also a team that's been flying under the radar. Like I almost feel like they do every year to get into the top 10. But yes, they did lose to Penn State. However, they have played some hard, strong football. And Oregon, sure, playing good teams as well. But when they get pressed with a little bit of competition, things tighten up quick, where they're just not scoring as much. And with that being said, obviously Illinois plus 21 and a half, give me Illinois in the points all day long.
Yeah, it's also too like if Illinois wins this game, they have an argument to be in the Big Ten championship, which is crazy to think about. Like when I look at the rankings, it's Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, and Illinois. Like so, Illinois is very much like has meaningful football to play for still, even though they're ranked pretty low. Or are they even ranked? Yeah, they are ranked. They're 20th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I expect this to at least be close. I'd be shocked if they won, but yeah.
All right, we got one more game we're going to talk about today. I would probably argue the biggest one of the week, possibly a classic rivalry. Let's not forget it, even though Texas is playing ball. Let's not forget about our LSU A&M rivalry. We got ranked 8 LSU at Kyle Field. Texas A&M ranked 14. A&M to win by 2.5 at home, Jerry.
Yeah, so this one on paper is a terrible game to pick. It's been the home team that has won, I think, the last 7 games. They just flat out won. And I mean, we all know how this rivalry goes. There's been 72-74. It's been blowouts. Like it's just all over the board. And both of these teams are not good against the spread. This is just a straight up emotion. You have number 1 and number 2 in the conference. They're probably going to be the All Blacks versus the All Whites. And it's ultimately going to come down to this. Can LSU's defense stop the rushing attack with Moss and make Wegman start passing the ball? Because if A&M gets one-dimensional and has to rely on Wegman, I don't like their odds of winning the game. And the way that LSU is playing, they're finally showing life at the running game. You have, which they're calling the honky badger and number 40 Whit Weeks, playing fantastic football at the linebacker position. And they're peaking at the right time. I mean, both teams are peaking at the right time. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
It's truly a toss-up, but to put a little bit of a bias hat on, I'm choosing LSU to win since they're 2.5 underdogs with it. So give me LSU for this game.
Peter.
Yeah, like I agree with the majority of what you said, where it's just like you just look at their stats, and most of the stats it's like yards are this way, but then rushing yards are the other way. It just flips back and forth, back and forth. I do think A&M has a slight advantage where I think they have a slightly better defense than LSU does.
They definitely do. You're right.
Yeah, but then you could argue that LSU has like a slightly better offense. So it's one of those things where it's nothing that's gonna, in my opinion, tip the scales to the point where I'm like, obviously this is where the game is gonna go. I'd personally go with A&M for one reason, has nothing to do with LSU or Texas A&M, but I think Brian Kelly does not handle pressure. So I genuinely want to see how he reacts because yeah, A&M will be. I don't know. I don't think this is actually very intimidating, but it's gonna be a blackout game, whatever that means for A&M. But I think the energy.
It's getting drunk is what that is.
Yeah, it's gonna be like I do think the stadium is gonna be rocking that night, and it's by far biggest game of the week, if not next couple weeks, because whoever wins this essentially is in the college football playoff. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game. Yeah, I think it is just going to be a pick'em game of who's going to win. I expect this game to be separated by less than 5 points. If it's more than that, I feel like it'll be more so someone going for it on 4th down or something like that, like late in the game.
When these games get to around 2.5 or less, not 3, but 2.5, it essentially becomes a pick'em game because you're only scoring by 3 and 7, and if you do enough formulas, you'll come up with that 2.5 is essentially a pick'em game at that point. I would say what it comes down to for me is that I agree with Jerry that both teams are kind of reaching their peak at a great time. Well, not a great time. They should do it earlier, of course. But like both of these teams are doing it around the same time. For me, it's whose ball is rolling faster. You know, these guys are picking up a lot of steam. They're learning how to play together. The offenses are learning how to be more fluid. Defense is learning how to go attack the ball like they should. But I think A&M in this situation, going through the ringer themselves and proving a lot, gives them a lot more momentum. Whereas, you know, with LSU, yeah, they had a win over Arkansas. You can take that as you will. Ole Miss was a great win, but that would be the only great win I would say. Damn, even with A&M, I would say Missouri's the only great win too.
And even then, they're not looking great as of late. I mean, it's truly going to be a toss-up where you have A&M as the second best team in the nation on sacks. You have LSU's offensive line, who have given up 2 sacks all season. It's truly like the best versus the best on there. You're going to have a fantastic rushing offense against a very good, they're a good rush defense, but is their weakness. And it's going to be, can they make it Wegman passing? Because if you go Wegman versus Nussmeier, that should be no comparison, regardless if you're the biggest Aggie fan out there. You're going to want Nussmeier 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, so with that being said, I think A&M's got the quote-unquote more momentum than LSU. Right. Both have momentum. And then, like, the second argument would be you're playing at A&M with one when this LSU and Texas will be the 2 biggest games, and especially it being at prime time in the evening. I mean, that stadium's going to get filled and it's going to get loud. That's why it's tough to play at in NCAA 25, as we all know. So yeah, give me A&M. I'll lay the points 2.5. I think that they'll cover this by a field goal. It might just end with a field goal, really.
It legitimately could.
Yeah, and everybody knows that this is a pick'em game. I'm not going to put it on my pick'em group, and I might sprinkle a little money on the game just because I'm watching it. But other than that, I wouldn't put any serious money or thought into this game. I would leave it alone. But that's my 2 cents, and I know a lot of people are going to pick A&M this week. I just know it. But that's
Would you do the over or the under at 53.5?
So yeah, 53.5. That's a tough number for A&M to get to normally.
I mean, if you think about it, that's roughly 21 to 24.
Yeah, and when you put it like that, you know. Yeah, I mean, but that screams the under too. Like, I don't think any of these teams are going to get up to 30.
No, that's true. And then Peter, if Brian Kelly's LSU wins this game, is that going to change your opinion about him at all?
No, I still have nice good old. What is it? Was it 2012 when Notre Dame just got bent over in the national championship?
That was against Nick Saban's Alabama team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
I mean, yeah,
that's the whole.
Everyone got bent over.
That was the whole Monte Teo thing when that whole
thing
came about.
Yeah, good times, real good times.
Now, speaking of that, can we choose one more game?
Let's do it.
We gotta at least mention it. Texas versus Vandy.
Oh yes. Yeah. Do you have a spread on Run Your Pool for that? I can look at that real quick if I need to. Let me pull it up.
I can try.
I
have it on covers.
What's the cover spread?
19 Texas favor.
We got 18.5 on Run Your Pool. So that's what everybody's dealing with. All right. Ranked number 5, Texas at Vanderbilt. Ranked 25. at home. Spread is 18.5 favoring Texas. And I hate that you're making me pick this game because I want to take Vanderbilt 18.5 all day, all day, all day. Let's let the second dethroning of a ranked one team to Vanderbilt.
I would love it. I'm choosing Vanderbilt myself, especially at a spread of 18.5. This should have been my pick.
They're shaking up.
They really are. I mean, the quarterback is playing great ball. Their defense is playing with some passion. It's ultimately going to come down to, can Vanderbilt's running game continue the way that they are and sprinkle in those short passes to keep Texas back off the line of scrimmage a bit. But I like Vanderbilt in this spread, and I'm hoping Vanderbilt can win. I would love to see Nashville just spontaneously combust with 2 top 10 wins in one season. That'd be amazing.
See, I think 18.5 is it's a little bit generous because I'll just take Vanderbilt money line. I think they're just going to come in
money line. Oh, see, now I got to look that up.
See, give me Vandy. Like, I think they're going to come in, storm that field one more time with all 40 of their fans. It's going to be exciting to watch. Actually,
all 40 of their fans.
So sad.
Looking back at their games, seeing how they actually beat Kentucky, I actually feel like that's something we all missed because Kentucky played a couple other like top SEC teams pretty tight. And the fact that Vandy beat them, it's like they're on a really good streak here. Ironically, they lost to Mizzou, but then like beat Bama, beat Kentucky, beat Ball State. It's like I actually would not want to be UT right now playing Vanderbilt.
Oh no, you just came off of a loss, like a heartbreaking loss, like where you just got demoralized by Georgia, and you're going against a Vanderbilt team that literally has nothing to lose, but they're playing very good, passionate football. You're absolutely right. And to support Vanderbilt a little bit more, that loss to Missouri really wasn't a loss. It was a very close game from first quarter to the end of the fourth. It was a great ball game.
So when we're talking about money line bets as far as like gambling odds go, most of the time when a spread gets over 20, the underdog is normally gives you like 10-1 odds or 11-1 odds, which is a lot in football. But with them being just under 20, Vanderbilt pays 6-1 money line, which is actually on the low side for a game that's hovering around 19 in spread. Because most of those teams at 20, it's 10-1 odds minimum. But for here, the bookmakers and everybody that's gambling on it knows that there is a slight sliver of hope that Vanderbilt could actually win this game, which is why it's sitting at 6.5. It should sit at like 9.5-1 or 10-1, but it's sitting at 6.5-1, which is maybe the lowest I've ever seen it on a money line win at 18.5. I pray that Vanderbilt wins, but just give me Vanderbilt in the points for safety.
It's also too, I didn't realize this till right now. Vanderbilt's undefeated at home. They've only lost on the road. So they definitely have momentum playing at home. But the other thing too is I think UT royally screwed their season when they pulled out Ewers and put Manning in. Because it's one of those things where it's just like, well, okay, well, where do you go from now? Because now you have Ewers. Even if he starts this game, it's questioning, okay, if I make a mistake, am I going to get pulled out? Because I don't care what athlete says it. That sits in the back of your mind.
Yep.
Or vice versa, where it's just like, how long is the leash for Manning? So I was shocked when they switched QBs. So I'm really curious to see how they approach the rest of the season if there's no quote-unquote injury to Ewers.
That's a great angle to take that because at the time, and you could quote me because I said it a few videos ago that like having both offenses play with Manning and Ewers, it was awesome to see. It was awesome to watch. Everything was very fluid, but like everybody else said, they haven't gotten the real competition. So at the time I would have said like, hey, like that was awesome that they could do that. But now I do think that they kind of shot themselves in their own foot by messing around with the offense too much and not just sticking with what they knew. Now, given Ewers, he had like an injury or something like that, so he was out for a game, wasn't he? A game.
He was out for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so I think that presented a problem in the long run. So yeah, I mean, still give me Vanderbilt all the way.
God, let's hope it happens.
I would
It's
love to
upset.
see it.
It's upsetting that Texas wasn't number one going into this game, but I'll take a top 10 win.
Yeah, I wish it was. I wish it was a ranked one just for the drama. I mean, there's got to be some sort of record at that point, like infamous Guinness World Records. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts about Week 9 or football in general?
Shout out to NFL football, NFC North being the best division. Go Bears.
Wow.
True to a degree. Does
mean,
anybody have any thoughts about the top 10 right now?
No.
I think it's going to be completely different in like 2 weeks.
I'm actually
'Cause any of those-
content with it too, though.
Yeah, I'd honestly, I'd rather see Indiana in there over Ohio State. As weird as that sounds.
I mean, you're not wrong because Indiana is number one in the Big Ten. Why is it
Right.
that Oregon, who's second in the Big Ten, considered number one in the nation? You can make the same argument with Georgia, Texas, and why is Tennessee over LSU? That was another thing
I
I
would
didn't
have flipped
understand.
A&M and LSU too, by the way. I would have
Yeah,
put A&M
yeah,
at 8 and
that's true.
LSU at 14 just because A&M dethroned. You apparently get like praise for dethroning a top 5 team, and we did it, and we're still at 14. Now, I'm not much of an Aggie defender, but I do think that we deserve to be in the top 10.
And y'all's only loss with Notre Dame, they're performing well, unlike LSU's USC. Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nice to see Alabama in the top 15 as well.
Why are they on the skirts? No, they
need to be in the. They should be in 20 to 25. To be anyone else,
at best,
they'd be in there.
Yeah, I was just assuming like they would give them grace and put them at like 9 or something like that, but they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. So I'm glad that they're out of it currently as it stands.
That's the problem. They're out of it currently, but if they win out, I mean, because ultimately you're gonna LSU, A&M are about to play each other, so that's one less team above them that's going to be there.
Yeah,
Indiana will eventually play Oregon and or Penn State and or Ohio State with it, and then you assume that Miami and or Clemson will have to play each other too. So there's a legitimate chance that Alabama, if they win out, will be right back into the playoffs, which is idiotic to think about. They should not be.
I think what's hard with Alabama is I agree the committee's going to put them in it. Like they'll try and find a way to put them in the playoff. I personally don't see a path back for them because they're out of the SEC championship race. So they don't really have like that extra bonus game to add to their resume. And with 2 losses and a bad loss to Vanderbilt, it's like, and yeah, so it's one of those things where I think Ohio State, I think they're ranked way too high. Miami, still too high.
Georgia,
I think Indiana. Yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel like the committee's like getting horny for the teams that are in the top 10 right now, and it's going to take a lot more to drop them than what should be. Because I think it's like I'm not an Indiana fan by any means, and I'm not going to say they're a fraud, but like they're 7-0 for a reason, and they're like killing teams. So I'm like, I feel like they should be top 10 right now. Because yeah, they're number 1 in the Big Ten. They should be somewhere above. What is that? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 teams in the Big Ten are ahead of them right now.
And I think BYU is going to get kicked out of the 11th spot. They've just been too lucky through and through. Iowa State might barely make it in. I don't think Clemson's going to make it. Yeah, so I think it comes down to I mean basically like what I'm what I'm seeing out of like these teams that are in the top 15 is that like the schedule is getting a lot easier. So it really comes down to the wins rather than the losses. Like y'all guys got to win hard rather than just winning to kind of like, claim some territory in the playoff position. And that's just like this year speaking. It's not normally that way, from what I believe. But yeah, this time around, I think all these people could win out fine. It's just like, how well are you winning these games? That I think will dictate the top 15 moving forward.
And just to give y'all kind of a peek, Miami, for example, their remaining games, home against Duke, at Georgia Tech, home against Wake Forest, and then ends the season at Syracuse.
Yeah, see, that's light work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll come down to like, man, like how bad are you beating these teams to earn your spot in the playoffs? I think like all the upsets that could have happened already happened, and which I would feel is pretty early into the season. I would expect something like that at like week, 11, but yet here we are.
Well, I don't know. Like I'm looking at Clemson's schedule at the moment. Like, yeah,
I did
they're
say that
hosting.
Clemson will be out of it.
You're right. But I mean, they're on upset alert. I mean, even with this weekend's game, they're hosting Louisville, and then they have two just nasty. I'm sorry, they're on a bye week this week, and then they will host Louisville at home, and then they're on a nasty two away game stretch against Virginia Tech and undefeated Pittsburgh, and then they end the season on November 30th against South Carolina, which South Carolina is one of those teams that I would not want to play. Just if you were to say that we're going to play them 10 times, I don't know if like my LSU team would beat them more than 6 or 7 times. Like South Carolina could wreak havoc against Clemson in a good way.
Do you think? I hate to call back, but do you think LSU and A&M could both be in the playoffs at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where they're ranked right now in the SEC, I honestly think this, even though if A&M win, it's going to be quote unquote a big upset, even though they're favored, just like rankings wise. I really do think LSU versus A&M is really more like a 5-6 ranking, more so than an 8 versus 14. Because yeah, it's like Miami. I actually don't see Miami having the opportunity to move higher than 6. Because to get higher than 6, you have to win your conference. So I think they have to win out to be the 6th seed. But even then, I think Miami, we're going to see them drop potentially, because you get the whole argument of, okay, if you make it to the SEC championship and you lose, well, that should merit something. So I know a lot of people, when they're making their bracket for the playoff, they're putting a lot of runner-ups between 6 and 9. So we'll see what happens with. I think this whole top 12 is going to shift dramatically by the end of the season.
For sure.
Well, any last thoughts before I let y'all go?
No, but other than go Tigers.
We're going to find out. Well, all right. Once again, boys, thank you. Always appreciate the input and good conversation. Lastly, picks are due once again at Saturday, October 26th at 11 a.m. First game Thursday, October 24th at 6 p.m. for Week 9. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. I appreciate the group. It's been a fun time. Let's power through to the end of the season. And once again, happy picking.